Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Coach's Corner on the Fitter and Faster platform. Today, we are very pleased to introduce head coach of Cardinal Aquatics and the general chair of Kentucky LSC, Kentucky Swimming LSC, Amy Albiero. Welcome to the program, Coach. How are you?
Yeah, thank you. I'm great. Thanks for having me. It's so fun.
Oh, we're excited to have you. And I know that you're just getting things back up and running, and you're having kids back in the pool and swimming. What's it been like for you the last couple months, and what's your transition back to reopening been like?
Yeah, I'm sure like everyone else, it's been really crazy. We were pretty much March 17th, most of the pools got shut down in Kentucky, which was literally 1 week before our state championship. We were lucky to get our high school swimming done, which was done in February. So our high school swimmers were able to have some sort of end of season competition. But for all of our USA swimming kids that really look forward to the state meet as their, kind of last season meet, that unfortunately was canceled. We were one of the hosts of that. We break ours into 12 and under and 13 and over. And so, that was really devastating for our team as being one to host that. All the pools got shut down until about June. And then like a lot of teams, we could only have limited number per lane. We started for the first 2 or 3 weeks, 1 per lane. Some facilities are actually still doing that. If you are a state-run facility, something like that, they even have more restrictions than what it is right now. When it comes to lap swimming or teams, it may still be 1 per lane. But the good news, from what I understand and just talking to a lot of our coaches, all of our teams are at some way, shape, or form back training. For teams that are like our team around the country, we train out of a university. So we train out of the University of Louisville facility, which we have not yet gotten back into. So like most teams, we rented 2 outside pools, 1 country club, 1 neighborhood pool. And thank God they were, just really about the kids and wanting the kids to be able to stay active, to stay part of something. And so, that's been a great blessing. We are still not back in the university. And so we are just going to move forward under the assumption that we will not be back in that facility this year. So our neighborhood pool, bless them, they are outside the box thinkers. They have been so great to work with. And so we are putting in a new heater in that pool, working with them to do that. We're going to cover that pool, and we are going to be that team that swims outside all year. And honestly, we are excited about it. I think in most years it may be a really hard sell, but in a year in a pandemic, I think it's going to be one of the best things going. And, so we're just embracing it, and we're excited, and we're going to come out this other side tougher than ever.
I'm so glad that you're doing that and you're taking on that venture. And I know you watched our episode with John Roy, Tom Ugast,
Yep.
Todd Schmitz, and David. And that makes us feel very good that we're able to provide some of those ideas and content. So you got a cover purchased, and you're working on getting a heater out there, huh?
Yeah. So, I think the biggest thing is the expense, because in my mind, this is a 1-year thing. Now, who knows? It could be a long-term thing. I'm hoping not. And so I'm really trying to be careful of the investment that we make, because again, it's not something that we're looking to do long-term. So for example, solar panel, solar covers as opposed to thermal covers. The difference is significant, that the facility doesn't want to use those long-term. And so we're actually going to go with the solar cover because it's cheaper. I'm not buying a reel for that thing because it costs $1,000 just to ship it. So, it's going to be interesting. And I've really leaned on my parents. We have some parents that are in the construction business. So they don't know yet, but I'm going to ask them to build me a reel. And so it's, as much as it is frustrating, I also feel like we're all going to come out stronger because we've really had to think outside the box It's creating in us, that we can overcome hard things. And we're just going to come out stronger, more creative, and, celebrate that. We can only control what we can control. We tell our swimmers that all the time. Control the controllables, and, think outside the box. So it's frustrating, but it's also can be a little bit fun at the same time.
Well, I think one thing for you guys that you have going for you there is every challenge that both Louisville and Cardinal Aquatics has faced over the last 5 to 10 years, you've been able to adapt, pivot, and overcome. Whether it was Louisville's rise to swimming power, which you're very much a part of, or Cardinal Aquatics becoming a club excellence club in only a few years. It's been really fun to watch the meteoric rise of those programs. And I know that you and your family play a big role in both of them. And so our first question today, and our topic is building a winning staff and incorporating your family in swimming. What does swimming mean to your family? It has so many layers in the Albiero family, right from your oldest all the way to your youngest. So talk about the impact of the sport on your family's life.
Yeah, that's a really big philosophical question. And I think ultimately, swimming has just been the vehicle. And it's really everything that we've done as a family. It's not about swimming. It's about the core values that Arthur and I have in our family. It is about, we want it to be about family. Everything kind of comes back to family, faith, friendships, being honest with each other and honest with yourself, being accountable to your goals. Swimming just happens to be the vehicle that's, what we've used as the family. My husband and I both, swam in college. That's where we met. Swimming's been a huge part of just our own lives. And, if my kids wanted to do some other sports, we always encourage that. Although, I was like, well, you're probably going to have to take an Uber to that practice because before Ubers were a thing. My oldest son used to ride his bike to go to his youth group because, we're coaching in the evenings. So we're always supportive of them doing other things. But, I think ultimately we just wanted this to be a family adventure. Arthur and I both are swim coaches by nature. Him more from the much higher level competitive side. My giftedness and where I get the most joy is more from the fundamental. And even though I own Cardinal Aquatics, I've decided the place that I'm the most passionate about is in the 12 and unders. I love building the base. I love teaching from the beginning. It's why I opened a stroke school, a swim school. I love building those fundamental important blocks of teaching good, proper technique, making swimming fun. And I feel like if you can have a good base and a good fundamentals, all the other stuff will come along. And so that's just where I get my passion. And ultimately, once my kids started swimming, I realized I really didn't want to coach them at the highest level. So I've been very strategic in where I've placed myself. But for us, it was like, just because this is what me and your dad do doesn't mean you have to do it. But ultimately, you had to learn how to swim. Swimming is a life skill. You had no choice in my family. You were going to learn how to swim. And if you weren't involved in something else, you were going to do it just as a good, healthy exercise to do. We want our kids to continue to set goals, be a part of something productive, be a part of a team, because ultimately what I believe, sport, not just swimming, but sport in general, it mirrors and teaches life skills. And so for me, it's really just not about swimming. It's about developing people and building life skills. Swimming just happens to be the vehicle that we use.
That's such a great answer. And you knew I was coming in with some tough ones. So I appreciate your honesty and openness. And it's a great segue to the next part of my question, which is you have a phenomenal staff. You have a staff that's been with you for a long time. Arthur also has a phenomenal staff and a staff that's been with him for a very long time. Talk about the importance of loyalty to your staff members and how that's reciprocated into both of the programs, because even though Arthur's coaching the college and you coach the club, there's a great symbiotic relationship there. And I think you both respect each other's space enough to collaborate and work together as well.
Yeah. Well, I think again, it kind of all comes back to those fundamental things that I talked about, and family being number one. And you hit the key word right there, loyalty and trust are most important fundamental things. For me, it's, again, putting people in there that I trust, putting the people in there that I think are good role models. I'm not everything that anyone that I hire, would I trust them to coach my children? If that's not a no, I'm not going to put them to coach someone else's kids if I don't trust them to coach my own. And so really it always comes back to family, to trust, to honesty, to being good role models to those kids. And again, because we're not just, my most important thing isn't just, developing world-class fast swimmers. I think that can be a byproduct of those fundamental things. And at the end of the day, I want our kids to swim better than they ever thought they could. But again, I think it's a byproduct of pouring in, building good people, bringing in those, just important characteristics of, again, of trust. For us, it's one of those things that, it's got to be fun. I'm going to put people in my staff that I genuinely want to be with, that we're going to have fun. We're going to be high energy. We have a kind of a joke. I've been a long-standing joke throughout all the coaches that I've had work with me. Anybody can run a workout. We are going to coach. We are going to coach the workout. We don't sit in my practices. My coaches, you will never see my coaches in a chair, not at a meet, not at a practice. We are going to come with high energy, because again, it's like, I just feel like everything comes from the top. If we're expecting these high performance, this high energy, this, all these things that we're wanting from our kids, if they don't see that in us, how can you expect that from them? So to me, it has to be fun, and we're always on deck having fun. We're cracking up with each other. We're friends. We have that close relationship. If you're going to be a part of my staff, it's about relationships. I'm more of a positive, coaching from the positive side of things, building up kids rather than coaching from a fear-based kind of strategy. It's more positive, it's more encouraging. Now, sometimes I always tell people, like, don't misinterpret high energy and positive for easy, because that's definitely not what happens. But again, goes back to the base. We're building character. We're building up kids to go out and make a positive impact in the community, in their families, in their relationships. And, but at the end of the day, I also want it to be a safe place to fail, both as an athlete and as a coach. We, especially in this profession, we employ a lot of young people. That's a lot of these coaches, it's their first coaching job. I feel a huge responsibility, and a lot of them, oh, well, now I'm going to go get my real job. And I'm like, I'm not paying you with Monopoly money. Like, this is a real job. And I let them know, like, you're impacting life here. you're impacting this next generation. Your role, you may not have a more important job ever in your life than the one that you have right now. And so I really help my coaches understand the value that they have in the kid's life. Again, the vehicle is swimming, but the job is building and pouring into these lives of young people. And that's just a huge responsibility. At the same time, I want it to be a safe place to fail. But I am all about dreaming big. We have a thing, and I read this book several years ago called it was called Chasing the Lions. And it all goes back to the premise: if your dreams don't scare you, then they're not big enough. And it actually comes back to a story in the Bible, a really short story about this guy who went out, got faced on a snowy day with a lion. And instead of running from it, he chases it and he kills it. The conditions were not good. It was snowing. And you're faced with a lion. I mean, that's kind of like 2020. I mean, come on.
It's a great analogy.
It's like conditions are bad. The obstacle is huge. And we can run in a corner, suck our thumbs, and just be paralyzed, which, there are days when you just want to do that. Or you can get up, you grab your sword, and you just go run and you chase the thing. And so, you're not gonna kill every lion you chase. So I do want it to be a safe place to fail, and we grow, and I give a lot of grace on my team, to my parents, to my kids, to my coaches. I'm going to be loyal to you, but we're going to grow and we're going to learn. We're going to admit when we're wrong. Because me as a head coach, I've failed and made so many mistakes so many times, and so I'm quick to acknowledge that and ask for forgiveness. And my parents know that, that when you mess up and you forget to sign your kid up for that meet, and, or I mess up on the billing, or, something like that, we give grace both ways. And, we just try to be honest with each other and be each other's number one fan.
You said so many important things in there, Amy, and a lot of it were answers to questions that we were going to ask, but that was perfect. That was a great response, because there's so much that I can pull out of that. The first one that I want to talk about, that I want to touch on, is you talk about facing the lion and facing your fears. And I think a really important thing for coaches, and especially for young coaches on our staff, to do is turn towards the fear, right? When we have that feeling of being uncomfortable, or maybe feeling awkward, or we don't know how to approach a certain situation, we want to turn to it and walk towards it. And I think learning to unpack those things, especially as a young coach who's dealing with athletes for the first time, maybe on their own, dealing with parents who are in their mind in a position of power, they work for a board, situations like that, you need to learn to walk towards those things. The only way you're going to learn is to make those mistakes, right? You talked about how important it is for your athletes to have a safe space to fail. I think it's so incredibly important for their coaches on that team staff to have the safe space to fail. And then maybe, and perhaps most importantly, you talk about everybody having the grace to understand that we're not going to be perfect all the time. We're going to make these mistakes. And I think that's a big part of the reason why your club and the college program there has been so successful. You give each other space and room to grow. And at the same time, you're not afraid to walk towards that fear. Is that a fair characterization of a big part of your success?
I think so, because, again, I'm more keeping things simple. I'm very simplistic, and really try to be as transparent as I can with people. Let's just cut to the chase. Let's be honest. A lot of people say, "Oh, I don't like conflict," and I'm like, I don't like conflict either. I like resolution. Right. And so if we're not being honest and we're not having open discussion, I'm not afraid to have the hard conversations. I don't hold grudges. I want to talk about it so we're out of conflict and we can get to a resolution. We can agree to disagree, and there have been times when our team is not perfect by any stretch of the imagination. And our team is not perfect for every family. Because again, I'm going to look at every kid, just like when we're moving kids up in groups. Changing groups is always like, I think, the coach's worst nightmare time of the year.
Yeah, we just did it. We just made it through.
And woo, and so, I've had some people leave in that time because they didn't agree. Mm-hmm. And, but early on I've let parents influence, even though I felt like that was a wrong decision for a child. And inevitably that kid ends up leaving the sport.
Right.
And so, again, I go back to training up people, training up leaders. If your kids have not ever been in a position to lead, I want my kids to always be at the top of a group at some point. And sometimes parents are afraid of that. But how can you learn to lead if you've never been the leader? If you're always the follower, so I'm always looking at the bigger picture of not just developing a swimmer, but developing the whole person. But just keeping it, and again, that can be a lion in and of itself. I think everything goes back to real life, but also knowing that when I can tell a coach, just like raising your own kids, but when I can tell a coach, like, you're going to make mistakes, like right off the bat, like, you are going to make mistakes, and I expect you to make mistakes of a year one coach. It takes the pressure off, that I don't have the overwhelming expectation that they're going to be this thing. I expect you to make the mistakes of a year one coach. And just so you know, I'm not perfect, and I make mistakes in this every single day. So we're going to learn together. We're going to grow together. And I'm going to be your number one fan. We're going to admit when we're wrong and move on. Ask for, again, goes back to grace. But it's just like I say with my kids, you can trust me. I'm this, I'm that. Like, I trust you to be 14. I trust you to make decisions of a 14-year-old. They're not 40-year-old decisions. They're 14-year-old decisions, And so, I want to help grow them and build them up. And a lot of our coaches that come, they've been Division I athletes. They've been high performers. The expectation that they have for themselves is huge.
It's already high.
It's already high. And so, when I can go in there and just kind of ease it a little bit, and then encourage them that this role of being a coach, whether you're coaching our 6-year-olds or you're coaching our 16-year-olds, the value that you have in my program is equal. It's equally important, and I value them so much, and I just continue to build them up and how important their job as a swim coach really is. I didn't always feel that way. I was actually mad at God for a really long time that all he really created me to do was be a swim coach. Because I just felt like, really? That's it? Not a doctor, not a lawyer, like, I'm a swim teacher? And that's really what I am. I'm a teacher. Swimming, it's the vehicle. And it took me a while to embrace that in my coaching career, because I don't know, I just never had someone pouring that into my life, that what you're doing, whether at the first level or the highest level, was important and significant. And it probably wasn't until I had my own children that I fully understood the importance of that role.
I think that's such a interesting thing that we can go into here, because how many times in your career have you heard from a parent, so what's your other job? I mean,
All the time.
all the time, right? And I'll say, this is what I do full time. This, from the time I wake up to when I go to bed, it dedicated to your kids in our club. So, I think, and especially, having a master's degree going on and doing other things, there's a lot of societal expectations, I think, that we put on ourselves, that we're hard on ourselves about. And as you're growing into this business, and I was fortunate to work at some really good places, so I always looked at it as a career. But for some people who go right into club coaching, they might not have that experience, and there can be some stigma involved there, and you might feel less than because you chose this life, right? So let me hear you talk a little bit about that and some strategies you use to overcome that. That's so important for young coaches, I think.
Yeah, I think for me, I don't know if I really chose this. It's created for me over time of some other jobs. I was an aquatics director. I've always been a swim teacher. What I love, so even in my swim school, I want to work for me. You know what I mean? Like, I want to be one of my employees at my swim school because I love getting in the water, teaching. I teach at my swim school 3 days a week, and then coach my team as well. I just love creating the excitement of learning a new skill. I think coaching the youngest kids who know nothing it's so difficult, but it's so fun because swimming is so ridiculously technical. To be able to break it down to its simplest form, I think is so fun. It's so fun. And from early on in my career, I was an aquatics director, I was a swim coach, I was a swim teacher, because those were jobs that were available to me. And it's what my background was in. I was a swimmer, so even if I'd never worked, that's what I could do. And I found that it came very natural to me, the teaching the fundamentals, but also like pouring into lives of young people, whether they're 5 or they're 15. That just came very natural to me. And so when we've had a couple different things, when Arthur was at Kenyon College, and we were starting to have babies and all this kind of stuff, we ended up running a program on Long Island, just a country club out there. And we took our family there. We moved there for 12 weeks. We're teaching kids. Then we ended up moving to Alabama. And I wasn't really coaching that time, just with our summer gig. And it was in that time, I have 3 young kids. I'm so overwhelmed. And I just missed, and I love being Coach Amy. I love being Coach Amy. That's just who I am. It's just a part of what gives me so much joy. And I really missed it. When we moved here to the University of Louisville, I wasn't coaching. The university here was getting ready to build a new facility. I just actually took a coaching job for 1 year right before that facility was built at another team here locally. And it just reminded me of how much I loved being Coach Amy. So I remember one day Arthur sat down with me and the facility is about to be built. And he's like, Amy, like, this is no joke. And if you know my husband, like, he is a nerd. I am the opposite of nerd. I am no type A. I am like, yeah, I'm crazy. My type A parents want to strangle me daily. But Arthur's like the spreadsheet, the color-coded Excel, whatever. I can't even read that thing. And he sat down with me. This is literally how Cardinal Aquatics was born. And he says, what are your goals? This was a Sunday. I have 3 young children. I just don't even know which end is up. Like, what are your goals? And like, he has like a paper. He's going to take notes. And I'm like, well, I want to get the laundry done. I'm going to make dinner.
Right,
He's
right.
like, No, seriously. Like, what are your goals? Like, he was thinking I was going to say, you know what I was thinking? Since you guys are building that pool, I was thinking that even though I have 3 young kids, we could start a swim team from scratch. Yeah, like that was not even on my radar. But one of the things that Arthur and I, when we first moved here, is, I mean, we have the one thing about Kentucky, even though we're a small LSC, there's a very, very strong high level swimming tradition in our state.
Yes. Yes.
It is so beautiful. And we're in a city where that's a huge part of the culture.
Yep.
And so to start another team here was like not popular. And, but what we wanted to do was to bring Cardinal equals fast swimming. We wanted to somehow bring that together. We felt like that was important, as part of Arthur's job, but just becoming involved in the community because we're transplants here. We're not from here, and the culture here is so rich and all about tradition, and there's so much I love about that. But Arthur's from Brazil, I'm from Ohio. Like we're just mutts. I mean, we're just bringing all of what we have, and we just want to be immersed in it because we're just loving it. So we're like, you know what, let's start a team here. But I knew nothing. I honestly, Arthur said I shouldn't share this, but like he would have to get the computer ready. I'm like, can you just get it on a blank screen so I can type? Like I just knew nothing about the business of running a team. I knew about what goes on in the pool and how I want to influence the lives of people, because really it is what I see as my ministry. But none of the other stuff that I know about. I didn't know about like the billing stuff. I don't have a business background. I told you I'm not type A. Like I was a hot mess for the first couple of years. But I believed in the foundational things and felt like if I gave everyone grace and I poured in to the lives of these kids, I could learn. All the other stuff was secondary. And I relied on a lot of people. The secretary for Kentucky Swimming at the time, bless that woman's heart, Susan Klingensmith. I talked to her every single day. I cried to her. And Maureen McDonald, who is our secretary now, I still do the same thing. I've been doing this for 18 years, 17 years now. And so I rely heavily on people to balance me out, to hold me accountable, to give, if I don't know, well, there's a lot of stuff I don't know, I go try to help, find somebody who might have the answers and help me. But, I found some people here locally who've been involved in our LSC for a long time. And I didn't know anything about hosting a meet. I didn't know anything about, all those things. And I just sought those people out and I was real honest. Help me. Here's why I want to have a team. Here are my fundamental goals. Here's what I don't know. And I was just brutally honest. And people are willing to help when you're willing to just be honest and transparent. And that's what I found. And so, I think it's important. So that's kind of, I don't even know if I answered your question, but that was a big lion. That was a big lion. And I think I own 2 businesses. And I'm not a business person. My accountant wants to my gosh, but I just kind of, I'm a risk taker in the things that I believe in and feel like if I can keep the core and the fundamentals, always everything coming back to that, I can learn everything else. The IRS isn't so gracious. I'd learn.
Right. We're always worried about that come April, right? And that's always in the back of my mind too.
Yeah.
But there's so much great stuff in there, Amy. And here you are. You didn't know a lot about the business of swimming, and now you're the general chair of Kentucky Swimming. And like you said, there's a whole lot of history and tradition and expectation, right? That comes with having a job like that, being a business owner in Louisville. You have a lot of competitors. I mean, this is a lot of learning in a relatively short amount of time.
Yeah.
And it actually is a great segue into more learning, because now we have to get into the difficult questions that relate to coaching your own children. So you and I both have been blessed with kids who have excelled at swimming at some pretty high levels. And that journey is not a easy one.
Yeah.
So I think the best place for us to start is, how do you and Arthur recognize in the Albiero family when it's time to keep the coach hat on, when it's time to put the parent hat on? How did you discover that line?
No. Through trial and error. And again, going back to just being brutally honest with my parents, my swim parents, I will be the first one that will say I have made every terrible mistake in raising my kids up in this sport. I have, because a couple things. I think early on, again, being so young, not really understanding, coming into where this tradition was, this high level swimming in this community, and now we're starting something from scratch, which I never really felt confident, but I'm walking around, like if you saw me, you'd be like, oh my gosh, she exudes so much confidence. And I'm like, I am just trying to survive the day, but I kind of put this pressure on my kids that was so unfair, that look, the way you perform is a direct correlation to my coaching ability, or as if it came back on me. And that was so unfair to them. And I really did learn that early on, when they were 10 and unders. And, my expectation for them was so high, because they just represented, oh, you represent me at all times. You represent this club. You got to be the hardest worker. You got to be, the expectation. And it was so unfair. It was so unfair. I've yelled at my kids and other groups from across the pool when I saw them not doing what I felt. I mean, I have made every mistake, and I will be brutally honest with my parents about that. And I don't even remember what point I learned, but and just kind of seeing how that probably wore on them a little bit. And I wasn't happy. I didn't like who I was becoming. Mm-hmm. At the end of the day, I would just be like.
So there was some recognition there.
Yeah. Like, I'm giving so much more grace to people that aren't Albieros. And that's so unfortunate for my own children, And so I just kind of decided, like, I gotta give them the experience that I want all these other kids who are my kids to have. Right. And so, I started putting them with other coaches, because I didn't trust myself, to be fair to them. And, I just started doing what I was preaching to my parents, and I always tell my parents, look, your kids are going to have so many coaches throughout their life, so many teachers, so many, but they're only going to have one mom and one dad. And none of us can be that for them. And the more I heard myself saying that, I was really convicted that, wow, you're really good at teaching other people how to do it, and you're sucking at doing it yourself, And so I really try to remember that. And I've actually, as they moved out of my groups and into our pre-senior, senior national level, I asked my coaches to hold me accountable to that. That if they saw me do something on the deck or at a meet or whatever, that was, here's who I want to be, as a mom coach, as a mom coach. And if you see me deviate from that, I want you to call me out and hold me accountable. You know, and so I know I can be intimidating to some of those coaches too, but but they did a really good job. And it may not be in the moment, it may be after the fact to say, hey, let me reflect something back to you that you may not be aware of. And then I just really start encouraging my kids to talk to their coach. Talk to your coach about it. They'll come to me, well, what did Coach Chip say? What did Coach Kevin say? What did Coach, go talk to them. Now I may send a little text to them like, hey, here's really where I want you to go with this. And they may say, stop texting me. But I really started to practice what I was preaching to my own swim parents on my team. And, I think at the end of the day, we don't talk a whole lot about swimming. We don't have these rules. It's funny when you sent me, hey, do you guys have like a rule thing on your, a schedule, this big schedule, and do you have these rules? No, no. We are simplistic. I don't know if it's the right thing, but, my kids are so immersed in swimming. They're not, I think sometimes parents think we come home and we're at dinner table and we're talking strategy and we're like breaking down film and we're like, all this stuff. We do not. My kids are not swim nerds. They have other interests. My daughter plays the guitar. She loves to sing. She is a people person. Like if we even start talking about swimming, she is somewhere else. We kind of let them be the ones that if they want to talk something, then we kind of let them lead that. But I think the biggest thing that we have done, especially as they got older, when you're younger, we're going to swim practice. It's what we do. If you're not going to swim, that's fine, but you're going to be there because that's where we are. And my kids have vandalized that pool. You can see everywhere. Yeah, everywhere on there, it would be like Gabby written in marker. And I'm like, did you do that? No. And I'm like, but it's your name. If you're going to vandalize, write someone else's name, not your own name. And so they had to be there, and, it's just what they're doing. But as they got older, we would, in our program, especially as they get senior, pre-senior, senior national, we have goal meetings. We have goal sheets. And, always kind of came back to your goals. Mom, very rarely will my kids say, I don't want to go to practice. But if that was ever a question, I would say, talk to your coach. And I would say, it's your swimming. And if you feel like that's what you need, if you're sick or if you're run down or whatever, your body, I really want my kids to become very aware of what they need. And my kids always say, well, you put us on a guilt trip. And I'm like, well, if me saying, look, these are your goals, it's your swimming. If you feel like this is what you need to do to get you closer to your goal is to stay home and rest or, do whatever, then that's the choice you got to live with, Oh, you're making me feel so guilty. I'm like, well, if that brings guilt upon you, that's on you. That's not me, And so, the great thing is my kids are each other's number one fans. They're each other's accountability people. And we've just really want our kids, again, going back to the fundamentals, we want them to be honest with themselves. We want them to be honest with their team and their coaches. And there have been days where, yeah, take a day off. You've earned it. You need it. You want to go to this dance? I'm one of those kids, one of those parents too, where I feel like you can do everything and still be successful and reach your goals. To say like, oh, swimming just keeps me from blah, blah, blah. I'm like, no. Okay, first of all, what are your goals? Yeah, there are some times when there's a dance on a big meet and you might have to miss something good for something better. But there have been times when you go to a meet and then you run home, get ready for the dance. early on, I'm like, I don't care if you're out till midnight, but warm up's at 6 a.m. Better be there, and and then there's also been times where maybe it's early season and Mom, can I please? And I'm like, talk to your coach. If your coach is all right with you missing that day, who am I to say? So have a plan, be honest, communicate. And, they've turned out pretty good. And I think they genuinely like swimming for different reasons. But it's where their friends are,
Right.
and it's where their family is, and we show up for each other. We really do. We've just made it a family thing.
It's been a great model to watch, and I've been fortunate to be on a lot of junior national pool decks and to see, your kids really shine the last couple of years over the last decade, really. And it's been a model. It's been a model to watch, and it's been fun to watch. I think one thing that you said, really resonated with me, and I think should resonate with a lot of swim parents, and we do get a lot of swim parents watching this show, is that it has to be their swimming. Mike Murray knows a lot about swimming, but there's only so much that they'll want to listen to. And so, making sure that we had discussions in our house that, this, you own this. And we didn't have any written rules either, but as soon as we got in the car to go home after practice, I tried not, unless they brought it up organically, there wasn't any swimming discussion. But everything that you mentioned really resonated with me, because that experience of your kids wanting to be successful, the expectation that we have as parents, the double expectation we have as parents and their coaches, that can get muddy sometimes. You explained it beautifully, and it's different for everybody, right? Like, we're not all going to experience the same issues.
Right. I just remember I started switching what I was saying to my kids when they got out of the car. This is back when I was driving them. And I'll even say it sometimes now if I'm driving them somewhere and they get out and, they just kind of roll their eyes. But I just started saying, and it was a good reminder to me, because as I'm dropping them off at the door, I'm getting ready to park my car to go in and coach their team. And I would say to them, be the hardest worker and the one having the most fun. Because I want them to give 100%. Like, the Albieros, we are not wusses. Like, we come, be the best that you can be today. Whatever your best is today, give that. It may not be as good as yesterday. Tomorrow, maybe whatever your best is today, give that. That's all my expectation is. I'm not going to be the best coach I've ever been every single day. So having realistic expectation, but whatever your best is today, give that. Be honest. But I just started saying, be the hardest worker and the one having the most fun. And I think that comes back, that reminded, I heard what I said. I'm going to go there and I'm going to coach my butt off today. And I'm going to have a lot of fun doing it. I want to be the coach on the deck having the most fun. I'm going to work. I'm going to be sweating. I'm going to be running around. I'm going to be cheering. I'm going to be all this. I'm going to be the hardest worker and the one having the most fun.
I love it. And, one thing that I've heard people in your family and your coaching staff say a lot is, we're humble, but we're hungry.
Yeah.
And I think that really epitomizes the entire program there. And Amy, I really appreciate your time today. This has been a great talk. I have one last question for you, because I know a lot of recruits, when they go to visit Louisville, they have to learn how to say Louisville, because a lot of them go in with some ideas. And so how do you coach people when they get there to say it correctly?
Oh my gosh. We say Louisville, but I don't know. I don't know what the right thing is. I'm married to a Brazilian. He says half the stuff wrong most of the time, but it's Louisville, but for us, it comes back to family. So you say
absolutely. Well, Jamie, thank you so much. We wish you all the best of success. This was a great talk. And as a reminder to all our viewers, all of the replays of Coach's Corner will be up on the fitterandfaster.com website, as well as on YouTube. Best of luck to the Cardinal family, Coach, and we'll see you around the pool deck.
Thanks. See you soon.
Bye-bye.
Bye.